Alrighty, welcome to the read-along. As usual, we will get going on the articles. This is for my personal education and for the education of anybody else that is interested in learning. We just read these articles, do a quick analysis, and move on to the next. If anybody comments, I'll be free to share your comment and perhaps start a dialogue. But for now, let's get going. It seems like there's not too much to read today. Being that it's an election weekend, everybody has been mobilizing to get out the vote. Audio check 1 2 1 2. Audio is good. All right, so let's get going for today. There's not much of a rush, I guess, since, like I said, there's only a couple articles to go over today. Let me close the door. Be right back in 5 seconds. Alrighty. Got my tea ready. Most of the articles, generally all the articles I've been reading this year have been straight from the liberationnews.org website. Those have been able to keep me pretty busy on Sundays. Plenty of reading. And most of the articles that they provide also have hyperlinks so that you can always dig deeper into, take a deeper dive into related articles or resources to show that most of what they say is not just opinion, but it's also factually based. Okay, that is what is very important about journalism nowadays, is that if you're a true journalist, if you're an honest journalist, your objectivity is not going to be based on who you're working for. It's going to be based on what the facts present for you to report. All right, I have my tea today as well. My throat's a little... Well, my excuse today for my throat is not allergies. Is that I went to the dentist this Friday, but and I feel like they left it a little high and a little sharp, but getting used to it. Apparently, if you this is not recommended. This is just something I read online. A lot of people can't wait sometimes a month or the 2 months it takes to get back to the dentist when they do a bad job with your filling, when they leave it too high or too sharp. A lot of people, even though the dentists don't recommend it, they say if you must use something to file it down, to use those soft nail files. And you cut it to shape so that you can reach it better. But it's not recommended. It's not recommended because you could scratch your enamel, which is bad, or you can file it down too much, which weakens the actual filling and it might break. Who knows, right? But just a little tidbit. All right, let me get going with the article here. That's just a little side conversation that I am not in a position to give professional advice on teeth. Obviously, I got a feeling because apparently I don't take care of my teeth enough. I think I do. I think they're all just, I think we just tend to outlive the quality of our teeth nowadays. So, it's harder to keep up with them. But it's true. Stay away from sugars. Your teeth will last longer. All right. So one of the main articles we're going to read today, the article is titled, U.S. wants to force regime change in Lebanon, not end Israeli slaughter there. Let me zoom in a little here on the article so that we can all read it. All right, and the article is by Joyce Shediak, October 30th, 2024. All right, and the picture is of Beirut residential area is bombed. Screenshot at suppressed news. Uh, Article reads as follows: U.S. shuttle diplomacy into Lebanon is not designed to resolve the situation there or get Israel to stop the bombing, which Lebanon so urgently needs. Instead, the U.S. goal is to use Israel's massive carpet bombing of Lebanon's civilian areas as leverage to bring about regime change there. Washington is trying to force presidential elections under the Israeli gun and install a U.S. client as Lebanon's president. It and its proxy force, Israel, seek to reduce the power of Hezbollah, the Lebanese resistance, which is strong in the government as well as on the ground, to destroy it if all possible, and if that doesn't work, to foment civil war in Lebanon. On October 22nd, State Department spokesperson Vedant Patel explained that, quote, the U.S. goal is to get the government and country of Lebanon to a place where it is out of the stranglehold of Hezbollah, end quote. Lebanese government officials have explained to U.S. Special Envoy Amos Hochstein that to have elections they would have to reconvene parliament. They asked Hochstein to guarantee that Israel wouldn't bomb a convened parliament, as Hezbollah, with its Shia and Christian allies, has 68 of the 128 seats in parliament. The U.S. envoy would not offer this guarantee. Lebanese army never defended Lebanese sovereignty. The U.S. wants to install as president its man, the head of the Lebanese army, Joseph Aoun. This is because the U.S. controls the Lebanese army. It sponsors, arms it, and has trained more than 32,000 Lebanese troops. For years, the U.S. has even operated a proxy commando unit connected with the army, run by U.S. Special Operations Forces and codenamed Lion Hunter. Washington supplies the Lebanese army with weapons that are 3 generations behind, with many being obsolete. This is to make sure it could never mount a significant confrontation against Israel, which the Pentagon gives the latest and best spyware and armament. The Lebanese army is not even permitted by the U.S. to fight back when fired upon by Israel. The Lebanese army is set up as a force to counter domestic rebellion, not to defend Lebanon. In fact, it has never defended Lebanese sovereignty from external threats. Currently, the Lebanese army has evacuated from the south, where the fighting is, and retreated to Lebanon's north. It is standing back and leaving it to the Hezbollah fighters to confront the Israeli bombings and ground invasion. Mass targeting of civilians. The most immediate need in Lebanon is not new elections, but for Israel to stop the bombing. Since September 23rd, Israel has indiscriminately bombed and flattened whole villages in the south and repeatedly pounded southern Beirut and the Bekaa Valley. It has killed and wounded thousands and made more than 1 million people, a fifth of the country's population, refugees with nowhere to go. It flattened 6 apartment buildings in a densely populated Beirut neighborhood to assassinate 1 man, Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, and continues to bomb homes there. It deliberately targets journalists and healthcare personnel, coming back to second bombing to hit rescuers. It bombs hospitals, claiming they are military targets. Its pager and walkie-talkie explosions terrorize the civilian population as hundreds of administrators, medical personnel, children in their homes, bystanders in markets, and others lost eyes and hands. It didn't start in October. The Western powers and their corporate media heap the blame on Hezbollah for starting the aggression because on October 8, 2023, it began firing rockets at military targets in Israel in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle in Gaza. They conveniently forgot that the West has been assaulting Lebanon since 1916, when it carved Western Asia into colonies. Each time the people of Lebanon have risen to assert their right to independence and self-determination, foreign powers sent in troops or armed proxies to stop them. The U.S. direct interference began in 1958 when it sent in the Marines to stop the overthrow of a pro-West government it installed there. Israel, the Pentagon's proxy, has bombed Palestinian and Lebanese civilians in Lebanon at will for decades, especially those towns, villages, and Palestinian refugee camps in the south. Israel has outright invaded 6 times. Its 1982 invasion killed 20,000, besieged Beirut for 2 months, and then occupied South Lebanon for 18 years. Between 1968 and 1973 alone, Israel staged 2,000 commando raids into Lebanon, entering at will, assassinating people it disapproved of, setting off car bombs and letter bombs, and destroying property. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was part of such a terror squad that in 1968 that set fire to the entire fleet of the civilian aircraft in the Beirut airport. All this occurred before Hezbollah or Hamas even existed. In fact, Hezbollah was formed to counter the Israeli bombings and occupation of South Lebanon. It has since twice liberated Lebanon from Israel. In 2000 and 2006, its deterrence kept South Lebanon free of Israeli bombings from 2006 to last year. This was a first for Lebanon. The group is viewed in the Arab world as, quote, the most important and effective Arab resistance movement in the history of the Arab resistance to Israel, end quote, according to Asad Abu Khalil, Lebanese political analyst. Israel conditions, Hezbollah conditions for a ceasefire. Though weakened from Israeli attacks, Hezbollah continues to hit military targets in Israel as it holds off an Israeli onslaught on the ground. It says it will stop when Israel ends its war on Gaza. Israel's conditions for ceasefire in Lebanon are allowing Israel to operate inside Lebanese territory at will and freedom of movement of Israel's air force in Lebanon's airspace. This is exactly what Israel did in the decades before there was a Hezbollah. Fomenting civil war. Meanwhile, on October 9th, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin issued Lebanon an ultimatum. Quote, the country can have peace, but only if the people rise up against Hezbollah, end quote. This is an attempt to foment a civil war. It follows a warning by Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in June that Israel could inflict, quote, massive damage, end quote, on Lebanon and sent it, quote, back to the Stone Age, end quote. Underscored these threats, Israel bombed Ayaltu, a small Christian village in the north, because it had accepted and housed Shia refugees fleeing the bombings in the south. There are outright fascists in Lebanon who would certainly like to see a pro-Israel government there. There is also a corrupt elite in the payroll of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and the U.S. who are constantly bad-mouthing Hezbollah and trying to instigate sectarian divisions among Lebanon's 18 religious groups. But will Israel be able to instigate a civil war? Many factors mitigate against this. This is not the 1980s. People know that Israel played a huge negative role in the Civil War of 1975 through 90, and it's openly trying to instigate another one. No Lebanese family was untouched by the war, which dragged on for 15 years, resulted in 150,000 Lebanese deaths and huge suffering. In Lebanon right now, there is a lot of solidarity on the ground. The sheer savagery and depravity of the Israeli assault on Gaza has united the people of Lebanon as Arabs and caused them to support Hezbollah's solidarity action. The solidarity is not just based in the Shia communities, where Hezbollah is based, and which are about 30% of the population. It is also among Christians, Sunnis, and Druze, all religious sects. They have opened their hearts and their homes to the refugees streaming north from Israeli carpet bombing. They see the whole country as under attack from Israel and respect the men who are defending it. Hezbollah is sanctioned by the U.S. Hezbollah is sanctioned by the U.S. and its fighters sneeringly labeled in the media here as, quote, Iran proxies, end quote. This media doesn't mention that the fighters are defending their hometowns, where their ancestors have lived for millennia, and where some have had to rebuild their homes as many as 10 times over the years due to Israeli attacks. Today, these fighters have the support of many in Lebanon communities who know that in all of Lebanon's history, resistance fighters are the only ones who have pushed back Israeli attacks and defended the country. The people of Lebanon are rooting for them to push Israel back once again and cheering them on for best success. All right, let's go back here and this is a very important issue to address that a lot of people aren't aware of. I'm vaguely aware of it, so I just need to reread this one more time. Uh, Lebanese army never defended Lebanese sovereignty. The U.S. wants to install as president its man, the head of the Lebanese army, Joseph Aoun. This is because the U.S. controls the Lebanese army. It sponsors, arms it, and has trained more than 32,000 Lebanese troops. For years, the U.S. has even operated a proxy commando unit connected with the army, run by the U.S. Special Operations Forces, codenamed Lion Hunter. Washington supplies the Lebanese army with weapons that are 3 generations behind, with many being obsolete. This is to make sure it could never mount a significant confrontation against Israel, which the Pentagon gives the latest and best spyware and armament. The Lebanese army is not even permitted by the U.S. to fight back when fired upon by Israel. The Lebanese army is set up as a force to counter domestic rebellion, not to defend Lebanon. In fact, it has never defended Lebanese sovereignty from external threats. Currently, the Lebanese army has evacuated from the south, where the fighting is, and retreated to Lebanon's north. It is standing back and leaving it to Hezbollah fighters to confront the Israeli bombings and ground invasions. It sounds like the Lebanese army should be dissolved, uh, and the people should take those arms and defend themselves. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like if there is any kind of civil war, it should be against the conservative army of Lebanon. Uh, so mass targeting of civilians. Yeah, so it flattened 6 apartment buildings in a densely populated Beirut neighborhood to assassinate one man, Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. Now, think about that. It flattened 6 apartment buildings. Let's just say each apartment building is about maybe 6 stories high and 4 families per floor. You're talking about 6 times 4, 24, right? You're talking about 24 families, averaging maybe 4 people, 24 times 4. You're talking about 100 people per building. You're talking about 600 people maybe assassinated. These are just wild estimates for me, you know. This could be on the conservative side for all I know. Maybe there's 6 people per family. So you're talking about 100 times 6, about 600 people bombed just to get one Hezbollah Secretary General. Uh, Not only did you just martyr a Secretary General from Hezbollah, you just martyred all of these 600 people. They have relatives, they have cousins, they have nephews, parents, aunts, whatever. You just martyred them. You made them the cause and reason for everybody to hate uh, the Zionist project, right? You're not making any friends here. And if you think that their relatives are only in their neighborhoods, no, they're all over Lebanon, they're all over Palestine. They might be some here in America. You just created a bigger resistance when people are aware. So this is an ongoing losing battle for the hearts and minds of the people in the world that Zionists are trying to win. You can't win this. This is their only choice is to be straight out authoritarian fascists. So that is what they're doing because they have nothing else now, and they're doing it for as the proxy arm of the United States, which is funding it. So if you're worried that you need to vote for Kamala because if you vote for Trump, fascism wins, well, you've been living in fascism your whole entire life and you didn't know it. This is what the Biden administration has been fully supporting and funding, regardless of what he says in his media clips. All right, so that's one part of it there. This didn't start in October. That's right. So any excuse that, oh, because of October 7th we're doing all this, so you're deranged just for that thought process. But when you dig deeper, this has been a century war that has been started by colonists that have been pushing apartheid, that have been pushing to control the Middle East. Um, so no. Uh, this is not a problem created by October 7th. This has been an ongoing issue where they got sick of the slow crawl death, and they got sick of the apartheid. They got sick of the oppression, so they're fighting back. The conditions for a ceasefire, what a joke. What a joke for them to say this. Though weakened from Israel attacks, Hezbollah continues to hit military targets in Israel as it holds off an Israeli onslaught on the ground. It says it will stop when Israel ends its war on Gaza. Israel's conditions for a ceasefire in Lebanon are allowing Israel to operate inside Lebanese territory at will and freedom of movement for Israel Air Force in Lebanon's airspace. This is exactly what Israel did in the decades before there was a Hezbollah. So, in simple terms, Israel wants to do an apartheid in southern Lebanon as well, and probably eventually call it Israel land. Uh, so no, this is not a terms for ceasefire. Terms for ceasefire is get the hell out of people's land and stop oppressing people, stop colonizing them, stop bombing them, stop bombing women and children and saying that you're going after terrorists. Fomenting civil war. As stated in the article here, there's too much social media, there's too much information, there is generational knowledge that the war has been an apartheid, that has been a colonist project by the Zionist state as a proxy for the USA. So no, people aren't going to buy this civil war nonsense. If there will be any civil war, it will likely be to topple the actual Lebanese proxy army. All right. So that's the article for today. I don't know if there's much else. Let's read the final. Today, these fighters have the support of many in all Lebanon's communities who know that in all of Lebanon's history, resistance fighters are the only ones who have pushed back Israeli attacks and defended the country. The people of Lebanon are rooting for them to push Israel back once again and cheering them on for best success. So this is article talking about Hezbollah. Yeah, they're freedom fighters. You want to call them terrorists, reactionary, call them whatever you want. But they're defending their land. They're defending their land from invaders. So those are not called terrorists. Those are called freedom fighters. Uh, okay. The terrorists are the people invading the land, bombing the land, carpet bombing buildings with women and children in it. Those are the real terrorists. Those are called psycho-fascists. All right. Um, these are truths that need to be told to people, all kinds of people. We shouldn't be soft spoken about this anymore. This is 1 year. People have had 1 year to catch up and inform themselves properly about this issue. And if you're still in full support of Israel or the Zionist project at this point, I'm sorry. You're just a fascist. You're just another fascist. That's that. I don't care what party you think that you're for, whether it's Democrat or Republican, if you think they're nice parties or not. They're parties that serve the ruling class. It's a kleptocracy. And they will throw the working class under the bus for any reason to create a profit for the ruling class. And then they will gaslight you and propagandize you and tell you that the enemies are your neighbors instead of the ruling class. What else should we talk about here? Let's check in on the live stream audio again. Live stream audio is good. Um, as I said, as a reminder, I am doing this for the whole year. I'm just going to read all these articles. I read them anyways, so this is a good way for me to read them, do my analysis on them, and if ever I need to, I can go back and reread them or just listen to them. They're for the benefit of the people too. If you want to listen to the article, listen to it. It's for your benefit so that you don't have to read it. Maybe you can only listen to it at work instead of reading it. But definitely, if you can, you don't have to support me, but if you can, please support liberationnews.org or support the PSL. They're doing great work. They're the kind of organization that actually puts boots in the ground to educate, organize, and mobilize people as a community, as a working class. Let's see, October 22, Ohio's Attorney General uses anti-BDS. I read that last week. Let me refresh this. October 23rd. All right, so I guess it's a light week for today because of the elections. It makes sense. It's been all boots on, all hands on deck, I believe, for PSL, Liberation News, and any related orgs to get out the vote. People are pushing for a rejection of the duopoly, for a rejection of business as usual. People are pushing to reject voting for Kamala or Trump because they are two sides to the same coin, two wings to the same bird, right? They fight for the ruling class uh, and have no issue throwing the working class under the bus. Um, if you think that uh, fascism wins with Trump, you obviously haven't been paying attention to what has been happening in Palestine. You haven't been paying attention to Hezbollah or to Hamas, that they have been defending their land, their families, their people from invaders that are being funded by the U.S. defense system. Okay? Uh, I believe Claudia dropped a breaking chains. Oh, look, there's articles in Spanish too. Never really. Oh, I should tell my dad. Just give him this link. Um, Claudia dropped. The Claudia campaign dropped a video today about how the BlackRock CEO apparently came out and made a statement saying that the elections really don't matter, and how he's sick of hearing that this is the most important election in a lifetime. For him, in the long run, he says it doesn't matter because they are all representatives of the ruling class. Let's see if I can pull that up for you really quickly. It'd be cool if I can just find this video uh, and share it with you all. Let's see. Give me a second. Let me put this on a cool picture here. This Trump, who is this? Musk. Musk is a cool picture, right? All right, let's see. Let's switch the account here. Yeah, it's really important, man. It's really important for people to educate themselves and to know what's happening here. Let me play it. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm going to play just the main part. If anybody else needs the video or wants to see the video in its entirety, I'll post it in the comments right now. Carlia 2024 PSA. And that's the link. All right. Does that look better? I think that looks better. Cool. So I'm just going to play this to the part that is very important.
No matter who wins this election, the truth is that we have a fight on our hands. This was never about Trump or Harris.
From the day we started this campaign, we said we're up against a system.
A system where politicians answer to the lobbyists, not their voters.
A system that presents two options, but for all intents and purposes, represents a single billionaire agenda.
But don't take it from me, Claudia, the socialist. Take it from the capitalist, the CEO of BlackRock.
Larry Fink just declared, "I'm tired of hearing this is the biggest election in your lifetime. The reality is, over time, it doesn't matter."
BlackRock manages 11.5 trillion in assets. That's 40% of the whole country's GDP. He knows he has nothing to fear, either Democrats or Republicans in charge. Right now, nearly 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck in the wealthiest country in the world. The leading cause of bankruptcy in America is medical debt. Test scores in America are hitting the lowest levels in decades because of the gutting of public education.
I'm tired of
CEO of BlackRock. Take it from the...
All right, so there it is, folks. The CEO of BlackRock straight out said it, and we're going to hear it again one more time, as it is reported in the PSA called "The Fight for Socialism." The fight for socialism continues.
The capitalist, the CEO of BlackRock.
Larry Fink just declared, "I'm tired of hearing this is the biggest election in your lifetime. The reality is, over time, it doesn't matter."
BlackRock manages 11.5 trillion in assets. That's 40% of the whole country's GDP. He knows he has nothing to fear, either Democrats or Republicans in charge. Right now, nearly 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck in the wealthiest country in the world.
All right, so I think that was important to address and to post that. Yeah, the CEOs are saying it. Everybody is saying it. Everybody's just being straight up forward, just being straight up truthful about what's happening. And why not? You can't hide it, right? It's there for everybody to see. And if he doesn't say it, somebody else is going to beat him to the punchline. I mean, as socialists, as leftists, we've been saying it for years now. It's part of dialectical materialism, dialectical analysis that reports, and I think it was Stanford studies showed that regardless of who you vote for, the politicians, the majority of the time, create the bills and change the laws to benefit the ruling class. That ruling class, don't forget it, it's about 4,000 billionaires worldwide. Maybe a good majority of them are in the United States, but out of over 300 million people, to change the laws just to benefit about 2,000 of them, that's ridiculous. The resources are there to help all Americans, to help all people around the world. The will isn't there because we're being manipulated, propagandized to be literally just capitalist fascists. Somebody told me that I was using that word incorrectly, but no, look up the meaning of fascism. It's not being used incorrectly. There's like 3 definitions of it, and it applies. So what the U.S. does through capitalism is it does proxy wars. It uses some people, pits them against another, creates a nationalization of people, where it creates patriotism, where it says it's only our way that's best and nothing else is acceptable. And then it plunders around the world, taking resources, abusing people. So, what's the word I was going to look for here? Creating regime change, as in the article shows. Pretty much what they're doing in Lebanon and in Gaza with the Palestinians, that's fascism. and that's being funded by U.S. capitalism. So you can't tell me that's not fascism. Uh, People that don't want to admit this are just comfortable living in their homes, uh, you know, benefiting from this capitalist fascism, benefiting from it, and wanting to look the other way. But you can't look the other way. People are going to start calling you out on it. The mask is fully off now. It's fully off for everybody to see. And most of the young generation isn't buying it. Most of the young generation isn't buying that this is a humanitarian project in Palestine or Lebanon. They're actually open uh, to the idea that we live in a corrupt system that needs to be changed, not reformed, but fully dismantled and rebuilt as something better, something socialist, something that benefits the working class, something that'll give people universal health care, living wages, um, uh, uh, housing as a human right, education as a human right, transportation as a human right, uh, use resources like utilities as a human right, like electricity. I believe it was Honduras that just powers, gives everybody electricity uh, as a human right. And I believe they just pay through the tax system. Uh, People don't understand that the $1 million that your state gave to feed immigrants or to house immigrants is literally a drop in the bucket compared to the millions of subsidies they do for corporations and billions that are stolen in wage theft uh, and you know subsidies. Um, so yeah, so we have to stop letting the major media networks propagandize us and divide us, because they're not only taking advantage of us and exploiting us, they're exploiting the whole world for their benefit. When you listen to people like I don't know, Rachel, and you know other big stars in the major news networks, they are literally propagandizing you. They'll tell you they're humane, they'll tell you they're moral, they'll throw a few concessions here or there, and then they'll say, "Well, you have to vote for our party because we're the good guys." And both parties act like they're the good guys, right? But they both screw you over as the working class at the end of the day. So let's not let ourselves be exploited any longer. Let's reject the system, because what is necessary, which is historically proven, is that for there to be actual wins for the working class, we have to unite, educate, organize, and mobilize. No matter what party is in power, we will always have to do that. We will always have to unite, organize, educate, and mobilize in order to demand things that are necessary for the working class. Yeah. So I'm not going to say much else today. Uh, like I said, there wasn't many articles since it is an election weekend. Uh, what I do say is, please, if you're scared of voting third party or independent because you feel that Trump is bad and he can't win, or if you're a Republican and you feel Kamala's bad and she can't win, it really doesn't matter. The system works on autopilot for the ruling class as it's been designed to, and we have to technically break the system. We have to break our chains from the system. We have to free ourselves from this kind of subtle oppression, propagandized oppression. Okay? All right. So, like I said, people unite. Uh, you don't have to. I don't. I'm more about a build bridges, not walls kind of person. So, uh, get involved with your local leftist or socialist or just activist communities and organizations around your communities. Just get involved, because what happens is these smaller orgs, when they have something in common, they work together to push that agenda, right? And that's what we need more of. We don't need bigger. We don't need more bookworms criticizing of whether a party is doing it wrong, or if an org is doing it wrong, or if they misinterpreted some ancient reading or some historical books, right? It's really about getting on the ground and organizing, right? If you believe in a democracy, get involved with these organizations and build bridges to work together on common goals. That is the most important part. Uh, you having discussions or disagreements with people online about uh, who's really not doing what they should be doing in an org is not doing anything. You just going to the ballot box and voting is not doing anything. The voting is more of like a measure, a social measure of where the mentality of Americans is at. Uh, and it gives and it shows whether you're supporting independence more, which is good. But in the end, to make a difference, whether you're apolitical or not, don't forget being apolitical is a privilege, because that means nothing is affecting you. So you have that privilege of being well off, perhaps, uh, you know. But don't be apolitical. Uh, the laws are going to be designed and written and enforced whether you like them or not. And someday it might affect you or your family or your relatives. You should care that it's affecting poor people too. So get involved. Pick an organization that isn't apolitical, that actually makes a stance for the working class. And if you don't like it, eventually you can move to another one if you really have to, right? But it really is about picking somewhere to be as a community and starting to organize and mobilize people. All right, I'm not gonna. I already said I was leaving, but it's just I usually like to read at least 2 articles, but there's not much to read today. Let's see. Yep, that's it. All right, so keeping this short today. Everybody have a great weekend. Don't forget to get out and vote, but mainly vote independent or third party. Reject the kleptocracy or the plutocracy. Reject the two-party system. Reject the birds. Reject the wings of the big evil bird, whatever it is. The two coins, the two sides to the coin. Uh, yeah, and go vote third party, man. Don't be afraid to vote third party, even if you're a swing state, because in the end, nothing's going to change unless you are willing to educate, organize, and mobilize the people. Cool. Everybody have an excellent